Hi everyone, I've got Simon Harling with me today. Simon writes and creates resources and experiences for coaches, but I came across Simon. He runs Coach Camp, and it really intrigued me. It was an idea to get a bunch of coaches together with no agenda to, you know, talk and explore ideas. And I plagiarized a little bit with our knowledge exchange events that we had last term that I was very, very nervous about, but actually worked really well. So thanks for the idea, Simon. Perhaps you'd explain a bit about it and how it's developed and how directors of sport could use it in their meetings.
I mean, firstly, thank you, Chris. One of the things to say is that Chris was involved in the development of Coach Camp in the first place. So it was authorized plagiarism, if you want to take it like that. And certainly, a lot of the ideas that we talk about today, and the hope for Coach Camp is that coaches go away and facilitate their own meetings, because there's an awful lot of good things to come from advocating for other coaches. When you advocate for other coaches and give them a platform, what you find is that you find strength in finding your own voice as well, and that's certainly something that I've experienced. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to talk about it today. And really, if I start off with a little story about no agenda meetings, because that's really what Coach Camp is. It starts with no agenda, then perhaps we can explore where directors of sport can use no agenda meetings in a strategic way that helps them achieve their goals. So really, for me, if I share a story about a friend of mine who was called late into a meeting on a Friday afternoon, the managing director of the company was really worried about the state of the company. And he felt that if the direction of the company didn't change soon, then maybe the company would fall into difficult times. And so something had to change. And he told everyone in the management meeting to go away that weekend and come up with ideas to salvage the situation. And so my friend who was telling me this story took one look at the meetings of previous company meetings and decided to pick out things that hadn't been done and rehashed the content. But one of the members of the team, his face just lit up. He saw it as an opportunity and to tell his side of the story. And so come Monday morning, our hero has developed a dossier of ideas and strategies to move forward, presents it to the rest of the group and says, look, give this a read. It's going to take you 30 minutes prior to the meeting. And then when we come into the meeting, we can all discuss these ideas. So time of the meeting comes. Managing director flies into the room, slams the dossier onto the table and cries, "Who do you think you are telling me what to do?" Now, of course, everyone else is kind of awkwardly shuffling their papers, looking at the floor. And when it comes to their turn, they talk about moving the coffee machine or cancelling Christmas. So you get the idea. And so having a meeting with no agenda is really strategic, it's intentional, and it takes some design, because otherwise you're going to end up in a situation like my friend found himself in, where the intention and the design of the meeting is completely incompatible. And so when we think about no agenda, what are we going to do to develop that idea for directors of sport? When is it going to be a bad idea? Well, I think it's a bad idea if you feel rushed and overwhelmed, and equally if you know what your next step is going to be. Having no agenda when there's low trust in the room is also a really bad idea. But it can be a very good idea if you're a new director of sport and you need to develop trust in the room. So you're going to go in as a new director of sport and nobody really knows who you are. And therefore it is a low trust environment. And at that point, you have a huge opportunity to be able to talk to people and get their ideas. And so it's really understanding when to use a no agenda and when not to use a no agenda, Chris, really.
Okay, and so I think from my point of view as a ex-director of sport, I'm thinking, how can I encourage creativity and how can I encourage people to come up with ideas? That's not true. A lot of people do have ideas to share their ideas in confidence. And what's your experience from Coach Camp about how people have, hopefully flourished with that creativity and ideas, and how did it grow from there?
Well, the primary idea of Coach Camp, when I designed Coach Camp, the idea of it was that I wanted to talk about coaching and I wanted to talk about it with other coaches. And I didn't feel that there was an opportunity to do that. I didn't know anywhere I could do that. I knew plenty of places I could go and people would tell me what they thought coaching was or what I should think coaching was, but I didn't have anywhere where I felt I could go and talk about it. And so I designed Coach Camp on that basis. It was a necessity basis. I felt that I needed to create a space to do that. And so the whole idea of Coach Camp, with myself facilitating it, was to create a space where coaches could come in and talk about what they were working on. And for that to happen, I felt that a no agenda and conference format was really the way to go. My concern with it was obviously that coaches wouldn't vibe or get used to that as an idea because it's quite a big jump for a lot of people. Because as I said, I didn't know anywhere I could do that. So where else were people doing it, and where else had people had that opportunity? And so it was quite a leap to start with. And as I said at the very start of this, you're supporting this, and there's quite a few other people involved who backed the idea, and I really needed that when I first started. I honestly needed people I respected and people that I trusted to say, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Go and have a go at it. And so Coach Camp is really the thrust of it, and the question we ask is, what would you like to talk about at Coach Camp? And so what we found is that coaches initially were quite quiet on that. And it takes a couple of meetings for coaches to get really comfortable, to realize that they're not going to get jumped on, that whatever they say is really that it's not their final answer. We're not going to jump on it and say, look, that's incorrect. We're going to allow them to play with this idea and develop this idea and iterate on this idea. And so it's really important that they feel that they can just talk about what's on their mind at the moment. What are they seeing that they want to talk about? What are they paying attention to at this moment? And so really what we do is we design the agenda on the day. So I'm not going in, as with the story I told you, I'm not going in with an agenda. I'm not going in with any ideas as to how this should go. And saying that and doing that are two very different things. And that's why I told that story. It's very, it can be a lovely idea, but certainly the first couple of times when I was doing it, I could really feel myself wanting to push it along. I wanted to make sure that everyone was getting something out of the event. And so that's why part of the reason I want coaches to facilitate in the long run their own events and develop skills is because it teaches you an awful lot about yourself. And when you've got a low trust environment, or when you feel stressed or overwhelmed, you're going to do what that managing director did and dive in boots first. And so it's really making sure that you really think about the environment, you really think about your intentions, and you think about the strategic use of a no agenda event.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same with as I say, with the knowledge exchange events. But what I found was once, as the day went on and people became more confident, you can be quite vulnerable actually. And you've got, directors of sport in the room. We had 15, and it would be easy to keep things close to your chest, but it was a really good collaborative environment. And I, like you, was sort of in the first place, I was saying, right, let's have 15 minutes to discuss this. And it got to 15 minutes and I would stop it. And actually, as the meeting went on and in the second meeting, if people were talking, just let them carry on talking. And we came up with some really, really good ideas. I ended up, with 3-4 pages of notes to share with all of our PADSIS members. And I could just see from a director of sport point of view, if you've got the confidence to say to your team, and let's face it, in most schools, there are some fantastic heads of sport and coaches with great experiences and great ideas. Between you, you know, you can have some fantastic ideas. And I think for me, that's the key for the director of sport, to trust your department, be comfortable enough to say, you know what, I don't know everything, but between us we do. And I'd love to hear what you're saying, because that's going to make us better, which is, makes your team hopefully feel really empowered and confident, but also it's going to get some great ideas for you and your department. So I can see it working really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. It's when I mentioned strategic, I think and you mentioned it, the second meeting, the third meeting,
Yeah.
you've just got to trust it a little bit and trust yourself,
Yeah.
and trust the team. And so we've talked a lot about trusting, trust
Yeah.
and control. If you trust somebody implicitly, you don't feel like you need to control that situation.
Yeah.
And so that is something that's what I like about it. I like, so when we talked earlier about creating resources and creating experiences, that's really about developing and designing environments that teach you an awful lot as well. And so that's really, I love doing Coach Camp because it teaches me an awful lot about what I'm thinking and how I'm allowing other people to develop their ideas and the struggles that I have, as you say, sitting back and allowing that to happen. So it really is action-based learning at its very best. I mean, we talk about it from a social learning point of view. So no conference, no agenda, no agenda, and conference ideas are social learning. So that's about getting people together, creating new ideas from the knowledge that they've already got, the knowledge that's already in the room. And so social learning is a very important part of that. And when I looked at it, if you look at the different types of educational frameworks like Bloom's taxonomy, it can feel quite low level. It can feel about recall and recognition of information, maybe less about analysis and creation. But I think as time goes on, as people get more confident and the trust develops in the room and people learn to cooperate with each other, I think we'll see more analytical solutions, more creation of innovative solutions. But equally, I think there's also those soft skills away from that obvious Bloom's taxonomy. And that's what I found, is that giving people a platform, giving people the opportunity to develop and reiterate their voice, just brings so much value into the room, aside from your kind of your learning structures, I suppose.
That's great, Simon. I mean, I would say for all directors of sport out there, link in with Simon. He's got some great ideas, and if you're interested in Coach Camp, I know you'll be welcome. And my other bit of advice is, have a go at one of these. Could you have one once every half term? And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised about the ideas that come around. So, Simon, thanks very much for your time today, and good luck with Coach Camp as it continues.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.